Hello, and thank you for joining us today. My name's Dr. Isabel, and I am happy to talk to you today about a topic that is truly important to all of us, One Health. And as you will learn, it truly connects all of us. And let me turn off my video. So I will introduce the concept and explain a little bit of what it means. And I would like to hear from you. And if you are seeing this live with us right there, please feel free to use the chat function also to ask any questions you may have. And let us know if you're familiar with the One Health concept already and if you have maybe worked in this field. If you are seeing this pre-recorded, you can use the comments function in Google Classroom, or you can send us an email as well to bzwildlifeambassador@gmail.com. So I will introduce some of the issues that fall under this One Health concept and explain briefly why we use this One Health approach in wildlife conservation education. And I always have to emphasize the importance of cooperation. This is an extremely multidisciplinary field that requires everybody to get involved. Oops. So to begin with, what is this? One Health is the idea that our health is connected to the health of the animals around us as well as our environment. And that is important because when we protect the health of one, we support the protection of the health of all, which makes animal health and environmental health crucially important to our human health. So did you know there are many different issues that fall under this One Health concept? And the first one that we will be talking about a little bit today and a lot more throughout the Wildlife Ambassador program, and we will have a lot more videos educating you about several important zoonotic diseases and zoonotic diseases in general. And we have to talk a little bit about another global issue, which is the resistance against antibiotics that keeps increasing, making our antibiotics more and more useless. A further entire field that falls under One Health is actually food safety. Did you know that the health of our food impacts, of course, our health, as in if we were to consume contaminated food because it comes from sick animals, then that can make us sick. I will also briefly talk about vector-borne diseases and what are these. And there are many, many more entire fields of science that fall under this One Health concept, because truly there are countless connections and impacts that the health of our environment and our animals has on us, including on mental health and much, much more. There is also a definition that you can see was only created or agreed upon in 2021 by the World Health Organization, as well as the World Animal Health Organization and the Food and Agricultural Organization. So very big, important global entities that all jointly agreed to define this One Health approach as you can read here, an integrated and unifying approach that aims to sustainably balance and optimize the health of people, animals, and ecosystems. So thanks to COVID, one could say we have now a globally agreed upon definition, but this is actually not a new idea or concept. And in veterinary medicine, this has actually long been a topic because as veterinarians, we study, of course, animal health and animal diseases, and we learn about diseases that can spread to humans, aka zoonotic diseases. And we also often work and study a lot about food safety and the impact of animal health on food safety. So the One Health topic was part of our curriculum in the last century. And yeah, my first experience in One Health was actually my PhD, which was not very glorious in that I collected fecal samples from public parks and beaches and other public areas. And these fecal samples originated from animals that were roaming these public areas and contaminating them with zoonotic parasites that were posing a risk of infection for humans. So that got me into this field in 2001, and I will talk a little bit more about these specific parasites and why they would matter even to you here. So what are zoonotic diseases? They are diseases that are shared between species. Animals can give humans diseases, and humans give animals diseases as well. This goes often in both directions. Did you know that more than half of all of the infections of humans are actually shared between different species? So it's not just one or two that we're talking about, but it is the majority of our diseases are actually shared with our animals, again, making animal health very important. Here is a mention of an old publication, actually from 2008, that I had used for many years, talking about EIDs. So what are those? Maybe you know, these are so-called emerging infectious diseases. And I know you all know at least one by now. So this article was a little bit older, but it talked about 40 years of emerging infectious diseases and how they had actually originated in the majority in animals, and in the majority of those from wildlife. So here are some examples listed actually. The SARS outbreak in 2003, swine flu in 2009, avian influenza are reoccurring outbreaks, West Nile, Ebola as well. And you may by now have heard about that because we've had more recent outbreaks as well. So a lot of these diseases were shared between species, and a lot of those actually originated from close contact and inappropriate contact with wildlife, oftentimes in illegal wildlife traffic. And yes, I couldn't resist. And then came COVID-19, making this more than a publication in the in Nature is, of course, already pretty well renowned, but the world still really didn't know about it until COVID-19 came around as a global emerging infectious disease that then did turn into a pandemic and originated from very close contact of humans with illegal wildlife. So on to the next issue that falls under the One Health concept, antimicrobial resistance. So I have some quotes here again from the World Health Organization that state that antibiotic resistance is one of the biggest threat to global health, as well as food security and development. This can literally affect anyone. There is no age preference, and it affects all countries. It does occur naturally, so germs will naturally develop resistances, but it is misuse and overuse in humans as well as animals that is speeding up this process. So here another slide from the World Health Organization on different causes, from overuse of antibiotics or unfinished treatments and overuse in agriculture, as well as poor disinfection and accumulation in the environment, lack of hygiene, that all cause an increasing development of antibiotic resistance, which will make that antibiotics do not work anymore, and we can again die of very simple bacterial infections. And what can you do to prevent this? I'll only use antibiotics when prescribed. Use them as prescribed, to give you just two very simple tips. Talking about food safety, what can you do to have safe food? So we need healthy animals to have healthy food. You can, of course, always, general rules, wash all of your food carefully and cook meat thoroughly and clean well, especially any animal products, to help keep your food and therefore yourself safe. So and these are all just ever so brief introductions of really, really big topics that require much more information. But vector-borne diseases are another much increasing concern globally. So what are vector-borne diseases? They are, again, zoonotic diseases, diseases shared between different animals that are transmitted by vectors. Most of these are mosquitoes, sandflies, and or ticks. So these vectors carry diseases that can then be transmitted to us. And examples of vector-borne diseases that you may have heard of, or I'm sure you have heard of, are malaria, dengue, leishmaniasis, or also known here as Basor, Lyme disease, which we currently do not have in humans in Belize. Same applies for yellow fever. And why is this a One Health concern? Because these vectors are transmitted via the environment, and it is a zoonotic disease shared between different species. And in this case, we will often best approach to solve this problem by eliminating the vectors, aka ticks and mosquitoes. To give you one example of this approach being used. So why is this so important, and why is this increasingly so important? Because this has always been important, but our population growth and our close contact with animals and the environment drives the increasing number of zoonotic diseases that have this pandemic potential. So we live closer together. We are already observing changes in climate, and a lot of the trade and travel drives the spread of diseases. And of course, we also have millions of companion animals and pet animals in close contact. Excuse me. So in the One Health approach, we tackle these shared health threats by looking at all angles. And in some cases, we may treat a disease in the environment or in its vector or in its animal host to protect humans, and vice versa. So to delve a little bit into some important zoonotic diseases, this is truly an endless list. As you learned a little moment ago, over 50% of our human infectious diseases are zoonotic. So there are many, many more, and many of these diseases on the slide here, we will actually have short 5 to 10 minute long presentations on almost all of them to go a bit more in depth, because this brief introduction, of course, does not give enough time. So we will talk a little more about rabies in a minute. Tuberculosis is a concern for our monkeys. We do know that we have it in humans, and we have not found a positive case in monkeys, but this is a disease that can spread from us to monkeys. Salmonellosis is a well-known example of a foodborne disease that you can acquire from unsanitary food or unsanitary animals going into the food chain. We have a presentation on avian influenza and psittacosis. Fortunately, yellow fever, which is a virus, is not present here at this time, but was what affected our howler monkey populations and almost led to their extinction in the 1950s. I will talk a little more about parasitic worms in a moment, but in a nutshell, they are everywhere in our animals and the environment unless we treat them and prevent them. And then more, here is an example of some images of what's called ringworm, but this is actually not a worm, but a fungus that is spread between species. And we have a presentation on that as well. And the list goes on and on and on, and we have more presentations that will be uploaded on the classroom as well as our YouTube channel so that you can learn more about these and most importantly, how to protect yourself. So one more that we will delve into a bit more, why you should have an interest in deworming your pets, your dogs and cats, because they carry diseases and worms that are zoonotic. And if we do not treat them, then we know that they will shed these worm eggs and they will contaminate the environment. And then foremost, our kids are at risk of ingesting these and getting what is called larva migrants. And of course, keeping our pets worm-free also keeps them healthy. But why everybody should have an interest is because it also keeps us safe from these zoonosis. So a couple more words on the rare but deadly. I have to mention anthrax, the main, so anthrax has not been reported in Belize, thank God. But if you find a dead animal that suddenly died for unknown reasons, and or you see bleeding disorders where an animal is dead and profusely bleeding, please do not touch and call BAHA, because opening these animals may contaminate the environment for up to 50 years. And this is a disease that has also been in the discussion at time for a bioterrorism threat. So it is a very, very serious disease with many different forms that we will also fix up a brief presentation for you at some point. And we will talk more about rabies today. You have to remember that any warm-blooded animal can carry it, and the main thing we see are behavior changes. There is no typical form that we can see from afar that means an animal is rabid, so it means you always have to be careful. Any neurologic or paralyzed animal is suspicious, and bites should always be avoided. If they do happen, they have to be reported because this is deadly for us. Yet there is prevention. More in a little bit. So why do we use this One Health approach in wildlife conservation education? It may be apparent already from this presentation. Human health is, of course, a global concern, and we all share this. It is possible to prevent most of these diseases, and it is possible to coexist with most of these animals. We do have help available literally 24/7. You can call our hotline or WhatsApp us. And our ultimate goal is to achieve coexistence and prevent zoonotic disease transmission, as well as support the prevention of future pandemics. So One Health connects people, protecting human, animal, and environmental health, as well as many other partners. And it takes a lot of coordination, communication, and collaboration to achieve the best outcomes for all of us. And beyond One Health, maybe we should ultimately achieve planetary health, but that's, of course, a very lofty goal. So I repeat, One Health involves everyone. Veterinarians do play several roles due to the study of animal diseases as well as food safety issues, but there are countless others, from the policymakers and the ecologists and the biologists and the healthcare workers and the pet owners and the farmers and the scientists and many more, that all have to work together to achieve One Health for all of us. One more emphasis on the importance of cooperation. It is very multidisciplinary, as mentioned already, and often the ultimate challenge is our human dimension, so communication. And with that, I am at the end of this brief introduction and sharing one more time our logo that our ambassadors developed to showcase this a little bit with environmental health, animal health, and human health, and our shared concerns here. It truly connects all of us, and I look forward to your questions and comments. Thank you very much.